guys, it's been a while since I did any kind of like grief update or talked about miscarriage or anything because I'm just trying to keep moving forward. But I've been getting this question a lot, and so I did want to take some time and address it for you guys. And that is, number one, did my oldest child, my daughter, did she know that I was pregnant? And if she did, how did we handle explaining miscarriage to her? I think that this is a great question, and I don't think that it's talked about often enough. So let's just go ahead and chat about it. I just want to start with a story to kind of answer your question about did my daughter know that I was pregnant? So not too long ago, oh my gosh, this might make me emotional, but here we go anyways. A few, I don't know, weeks ago, maybe a month, something like that, we were out and we saw a family of four, like 2 parents, 4 kids, just walking, doing their thing. And Delilah looked at me and she said, "Mom, that could be our family." That just broke my heart, like just literally broke my heart in 2 pieces. So yes, she did know that I was pregnant each time that I had a loss, except for the chemical pregnancy, because it happened really, really fast. I got a positive, a really light positive, and then like in a day or 2, I got my period. So that was just like a really fast thing, and like I think kind of a complicated thing to try to explain to her. So she did know about both of my early losses. I had one at 5 weeks, and I had one recently in December that was incredibly traumatic around like 6-7 weeks. So she knew about both of those, and so she assumed that if those babies had lived, we would have been a family of 4 kids, 2 parents. And like I said, that just like breaks my heart. We have talked about loss openly, we have talked about miscarriage openly, and I just wanted to give you guys a few tips also for how you can talk to your kids about miscarriage and loss if you either choose to tell them that you're pregnant early on in your pregnancy and something doesn't go as planned, or if they find out in like kind of a surprise way to you. So I did just want to kind of talk about how I talk about miscarriage and loss with my kids. And I shouldn't really say kids because Harrison is 2. He doesn't really get it, and so we wouldn't have started explaining anything to him until like he could see a belly or something. So I mean, if he ever asks questions, of course I will talk to him about the miscarriages that I've gone through, but right now, like, he assumes that he's the baby. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. The first thing that I would advise is to take care of your own like emotional needs before you start trying to take on explaining something that could be potentially really painful to you to your kids. You have got to take care of yourself first before you can take care of someone else, because they are going to have feelings about it, whether they are deep feelings of grief and sadness or whether they just kind of need to ask questions. They're going to have feelings about what you tell them, and so you are going to need to be the person that kind of guides them and supports them through that. So it's important for you to be in a place where you can support them and where you can help them through the emotional kind of turmoil that a loss can cause. So please make sure that you are practicing a lot of self-care, being in a good place mentally before you tell your kids. I kind of made a mistake with this one. I was just in such a deep place of grief, and I'll link my miscarriage story either up here or down in the description box, but there was a lot of like complications with it, and I had to go back and forth to the emergency room a lot. And so it was difficult for me to wait to tell my daughter what was happening. She was kind of getting like daily updates about what was going on because I would have to arrange for childcare and that kind of thing. And if she asks me why she has to be in childcare, I'm not gonna lie to her. Like, that's not fair. And so I would, I would explain it to her, and I would explain it in an age appropriate way, and I would talk to her and just kind of be there with her. But I couldn't really wait until I was in a good emotional state. Honestly, I was just really shocked when I was going through the whole thing. It was just like, I don't know, have you ever had that feeling where something is happening in your life and you feel like you're watching it happen? Like, you don't feel like you're living it, you feel like you're watching it happen. That's a lot of what I felt when I was going through everything with that pregnancy. In that way, I guess it made it easier for me to be able to talk to her about it, because once all of the emotions hit me, I was just a mess. Like, I was a wreck for a while. Even still, like I'll have days where I think about like what might have been. Like at this point, we would know what gender we're having. I know a lot of people who are pregnant and who are due in late July and early August, and they know the gender of their baby. They have a name picked out even potentially. And so I think in this first year, you know, having a loss, I think that it will just continue to be kind of challenging. So I didn't really have the option to wait to tell her. I wish I would have had an option to sit down and like kind of compose my thoughts and think about what I was gonna say, but I really didn't. I didn't really have that option to do that. So that is something though that I would recommend that you do if you have that option. So the next tip that I have is if your kids notice that you are like really down one day, like you're just crying and you're sad, kids don't always understand why adults might be crying, and it might be really scary for them to see someone who is sort of their protector, their supporter, be kind of broken. And so for me, it worked best to just be really honest. I would say things like, you know, I'm feeling really sad today because we don't have our baby anymore. I made sure to tell her that it wasn't her fault. I think kids often will kind of like internalize things, especially when their parents are upset or sad or whatever. They'll think that it's their fault, and it's not. And so it's important to make sure that they know that it's not their fault and that everything is okay, and you just need to be sad right now and you will be okay soon. It's important to address the loss, and I know that that can be uncomfortable for people, and it can even be really sad. I would say try to make it as concrete as possible. Kids don't, especially if they're under 10, they might not understand the concept of you losing a baby. They really might not get that, but they might understand if you can relate it to something that's more concrete. So something that we did, instead of telling Delilah that we lost a baby, we told her that some babies die in their mom's belly, and she has kind of known this. Like we've had friends who were expecting and then they weren't, and she knew about it. So she kind of knew about the concept. Then we related it to, we do a lot of gardening in our family, and so we related it to a seed, right? So some seeds will start growing and then they won't grow well, and some seeds really take off and grow and become a flower. And so I told her that our baby was a seed that just didn't grow well, and that happens sometimes, and it's really sad, but that is just kind of how it happens sometimes. Sometimes the baby just doesn't grow well, or something is wrong, or that was actually really helpful. And I think it helped her to kind of grasp the concept of what pregnancy and infant loss can look like. So I would say make it as concrete as possible when you have that conversation with your kids. So make it as concrete as you possibly can. My next tip is to keep your explanation simple and make sure that you respond if your kids have any like fears or questions. Delilah was really fearful when I was going through the whole thing. Like it was hard for her to see me having to go to the hospital. I couldn't like get out of bed and play with her. It was a lot on my body. And so I made sure to respond to her fears, and I told her, you know, I'm gonna be okay. Right now I'm not doing great. I'm not feeling awesome, but I will be okay and everything is gonna be all right. And I reassured her a lot. I had her come snuggle with me in the bed. I made sure to give her lots of extra attention as well, because I might be grieving the loss of a baby, but if your kids know that a sibling is coming, they're grieving that loss too. My daughter was so excited. She was crossing her fingers that that baby would be a sister. She loves her brother, but she is a girly girl through and through, and she was so hopeful that she would get to have a sister, and to have that potential kind of wiped out for her, or like no longer happening, I think was a really big adjustment. So I made sure to give her time, and I respected that she would have fears and feelings about it, and I responded to them as they came up. And the next thing I would say is to respect your child's reaction. So at first, I think that Delilah didn't really understand all of what was going on, because if you've watched my miscarriage story, you will know that we were going back and forth to the hospital, and for a few of those appointments, things were okay. Like I was having some bleeding and stuff, but we still saw a heartbeat, and we saw the baby on the ultrasound, and things were okay, but things were not great. And it did take a while for everything to happen, and I think that just the whole thing was just a lot for her. Like she didn't really get it at first. And so she didn't really want to talk about it. And I think that it's important to respect that. If your kids don't want to talk about what's going on, I think it's really important to respect that. So I gave her the space that she needed. And as things came up and as questions came up for her, I made sure to answer those and to validate anything that she wanted to know. I was really open with her, age appropriately, of course. I wasn't going to tell her any like really gruesome details, although she's getting to an age where we're talking about like what happens in a woman's body. I've talked to her about like that she is going to probably get a period soon, so she understands like that a woman's body bleeds sometimes and that we carry babies. Like she understands all of those things. And so I'm not sure if she understands the whole process, but she at least knows that they are a thing. Like she knows that they exist. And so I think it's really important to keep that in mind as you're having these conversations with your kids. And so just in closing, I wanted to finish out that original story. So Delilah said that our family could have been a family of 4 and that we were missing 2 babies. And I explained to her that our family was perfect, exactly how it is, and that we have 2 kids here on earth and that we have 2 angels watching over us. I'm not particularly religious, but I do love the idea that maybe there's an angel somewhere or something, or that soul is somewhere still nearby. Like that gives me a lot of comfort. So if that's not something that comforts you, that's okay too. Again, I'm not particularly religious, but I do like that imagery that maybe this baby that grew inside my body will still stay inside my heart. I do kind of like that. I don't know, I feel okay about it. I feel okay. And if you're looking for kind of an update on how I'm doing emotionally or physically about the miscarriage, I am okay. Like I said, when I see people and I realize that their due date would have been really close to mine, and I see what their body looks like or how far along they are, it gives my heart a bit of a squeeze, and it makes it hard. It makes those days kind of hard. And I know that the end of July and the beginning of August will be here before we know it, and that it will be the time that I would have been due with this baby. And I don't know how that's gonna feel. I don't know what that's gonna look like, but we'll see how it is when we get there. Physically, I'm fine. I don't have any like lasting anything from the miscarriage, which I'm really thankful about. I do have an appointment to have a cyst looked at that they think was related to the pregnancy loss, but maybe not. If you want, I can keep you updated on that. If not, that's cool too. But emotionally, I think that I just am still, my heart is still tender. And some days I feel like I can't share that. I feel like sometimes I'll get some judgment for that because, I mean, I had an earlier loss, like I was about 7 weeks or so. I don't know, I feel like a lot of people think that I should just be moving on because, I don't know, someone actually said to me, and I know that they were trying to be sweet, I understand that, I totally get it, but someone said to me that it's not like I had a stillbirth, and I felt kind of invalidated. I don't discredit that having a stillbirth or having a later term pregnancy loss would be really hard, like devastating, like just something I can't even imagine. When people say things like that, I think it kind of invalidates what I'm feeling, like that my loss is less than someone else's loss. And I don't think that that's true. I think that it's okay to have feelings, and I think it's okay to feel grief about losing not only like the baby itself, but like all the plans. Because I don't know about you, but when I am pregnant, even like in the beginning, I start thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to rearrange my house this way, the baby's gonna sleep here, we need to do all of these things. I start planning, and maybe that's naive of me, and maybe that's like dumb, I guess, but it's just what I do. And so I felt really invalidated when I heard that, but I also feel like it is a common thing. Like I feel like that's how a lot of people think. And so I think that I can't share how I feel, or that people will just be like, dude, why are you still talking about, like, that's depressing? And like I get that too. Not a lot of people want to talk about grief, and not a lot of people want to be around someone who's grieving. Like they want to be around people who are happy and uplifted, and that's fine, but don't invalidate my feelings. Don't do that. If you know someone who's had an early loss, and even if it happened years ago, don't invalidate that they might still be grieving, that it might still be really painful for them. So that's just another tip. It's not about like talking to your kids, but don't invalidate somebody's feelings. Don't do that. And even if you are not doing it on purpose, just be mindful that that person might still be grieving. So I guess the long story short is that I'm okay. It's kind of still a day at a time thing. I have a lot of really great days where I'm not sad at all, where I'm just really happy and like life is regular. But then again, it does hit me still sometimes, and sometimes I feel sad about it, and I think that's okay. So if this video was helpful to you, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you are someone who has experienced a loss and you talk to your kids about it, please leave any tips or information that you have down below. I would love to know other tips. I'm sure that people who stop by this video and watch them would also like to know those tips. So make sure that you leave all of that stuff down in the comments below. And if you are here because you have had a loss, I do just want to let you know that my heart is just with you. Whether you lost your baby early in your pregnancy or later, whether that loss was yesterday or 10 years ago, I get it. Like, it's a crappy club to be in, but just know that you do have support and you have a friend here if you ever want to talk about it. So I'm really sorry. Sorry just doesn't seem like quite enough, but I am sorry that you are a member of this crappy club of pregnancy and infant loss. Send you an extra big internet hug. So I am glad that you're here watching this video and that you are surrounded by people who understand. So that I am glad for, but I am sorry that it affected you as well. It's not fun. Not even a little. If you are a new subscriber, my name is Caitlin. I do all different kinds of things on this channel. I do some grief videos, clearly. I do a lot of mom stuff. I do a lot of planner stuff. I do organization and cleaning. I'm just a little bit of a variety show over here. So if that is something that you like, please hit that red subscribe button down below. I would love to have you with us. If you are one of my current subscribers, thank you so much. I have not even had a chance to respond to every single comment on my miscarriage videos because there were so many. But if you commented on that or any of my other social media posts about it, please know that I appreciate it so much, and I know that you guys are you're the best. You really are. You are so supportive and so sweet, and so thank you so much for all of that and your continued support, and just thank you. You're the best. By the way, you guys, have fun today.